Tonight, we'll drift through linen curtains into the warm stillness of ancient Egypt, a world where sleep wasn't just rest, but ritual, a land of carved stone and soft reeds, where dreams whispered messages from the gods, and the Nile hummed through the silence like a second heartbeat. This isn't the Egypt of pharaohs and pyramids. Not tonight. Not tonight. Tonight we'll linger in the quieter corners, in clay homes with crooked door frames, in the nightly routines of reed cutters and priests, where sleep was something to be earned, sometimes longed for, and sometimes feared. We won't rush. We'll move slowly, like the river itself, flowing gently from a weary laborer's restless night to the fragrant rituals of dream protection. You'll hear about sacred sleep, silk fans, and what the hum of mosquitoes might have meant in a world without windows. So lie back, close your eyes if you like, and let's wander into the warmth and weariness of a civilization that slept with one eye on the stars and the other listening for jackals. Chapter 1: Papyrus Pillows and Mosquito Songs. I lie on my side, the mat beneath me creaking faintly as I shift my weight. It's made of reeds, woven tightly by my own hands, though one edge curls where the humidity got to it last season. It pokes my leg in a way I've mostly learned to ignore. The room is dim, lit only by the glow from the oil lamp in the corner. The flame flickers low and lazy, casting tall, dancing shadows on the mud brick wall. The air is warm, not the kind of warm that makes you sweat, but the kind that wraps around your ribs and makes the sheets stick to your skin in the middle of the night. I listen. There it is again, a soft hum, high and whiny. A mosquito, maybe two. They found the one part of my ankle I forgot to cover with clay paste. Clever things. I swat blindly and miss. Again, my papyrus pillow crunches slightly as I reposition my neck. It's more of a bundle than a cushion, really. Reed stuffing tied in linen, lumpy in places, but it keeps my head above the dust and my dreams within reach. The neighbor's cat sneaks in through the low opening in the wall. She always does. I've stopped chasing her out. She curls near my feet like she belongs here, and maybe she does. I think she likes the warmth my body leaves behind. I like that she sometimes catches the mice I pretend I don't hear. Outside, the Nile sings softly, not with words, of course, but with the lazy splash of water against stone, the creak of boats shifting on their moorings, and the occasional honk from a goose who should be asleep. The sounds of the river are comforting. They remind me that the world is still turning, that the flood will come. That work waits in the morning. Today, I spent the better part of the afternoon wading waist-deep in the river reeds, slicing stalks with a dull sickle, binding them with twine, and ferrying them back in a boat that leaks just enough to keep me alert. The sun baked my shoulders. My hands are raw in places. But the pay is fair, and I only dropped one bundle, which is better than last week. I chewed boiled barley for dinner, again, and sucked on a dried fig that was mostly seed. I don't mind. The chewing keeps my jaw busy, and the fig made my mouth forget the bitterness of the barley. For a few minutes anyway. My wife, she's already asleep, has been for a while. She snores gently, the way a child sighs after too much running. I envy her. I used to sleep like that before the year of the biting flies. Now I hover on the edge of sleep, floating in that strange space where thoughts become dreams, but your eyes are still open. I close them now. I try to count my breaths. I try not to listen for the mosquito. I try to ignore the itch on my ankle Tomorrow will be the same. Reed bundles, sweat, barley. If I'm lucky, a little shade beneath the date palm by midday. If I'm luckier, fewer bug bites than I went to sleep with. The cat purrs faintly, the lamp flickers its last flicker, and I lie still, staring at the dark ceiling, wondering if tonight the gods will speak to me, or if I'll simply dream of reeds again. Chapter 2: The Dream Interpreter of Karnak. Somewhere just beyond the banks of the Nile, in the hush of early morning, the doors of the Karnak temple open, not for a grand ritual, nor for royal procession, but for a man with a rather curious job. He is not a scribe, not quite a priest, not really a physician, but he sits on a mat of woven fiber just the same, near a shaded corner of the temple courtyard, with a basket of papyrus scrolls beside him and a small oil lamp that always seems to smell faintly of onions. His name was Seti, or at least that's the name we find scrawled beside a faded line in a fragment of a dream manual buried beneath layers of sand and centuries. Seti was a dream interpreter, a role somewhere between therapist, prophet, and professional listener. And business, at least during troubling years, was quite good. The Egyptians believed that dreams were never just dreams. They were divine telegrams, messages from gods, ancestors, or perhaps something far older than language. To dream of drowning? A warning. To dream of a crocodile smiling at you? Oddly, good luck. To dream of eating raw onions under the moon? Well, that might require some clarification. Seti's clients came with furrowed brows and awkward hesitations. "I don't normally dream," they'd say, "but last night, there was a jackal. In my cousin's house, and he was speaking in riddles." Seti would nod, make a slow, thoughtful noise, and gently reach for his scrolls. Some were hand-copied dream books from older temples, dusty with use. Others were filled with his own scribbles, connections he'd made over decades of listening. He wasn't famous. He wasn't rich. He lived in a modest dwelling near the water's edge, ate boiled lentils, and kept a pet ibis who did not listen particularly well. But Seti had something rarer than silver. People trusted him. And in an age where gods might speak from behind closed eyes, that trust was worth its weight in gold. The temple guards liked him. They'd bring him their own dreams on hot afternoons. One claimed he dreamt of falling endlessly into a pit of honey. Another dreamt he became a crocodile and then forgot how to walk like a man. Seti would tilt his head, murmur something about inner balance or leftover fish stew, and scribble notes on the corner of a discarded ledger. Not all dreams were warnings. Some were blessings. To dream of sailing without oars meant peace was coming. To see a lotus bloom in your hand meant love would find you. To dream of silence, true silence, was the rarest of all. That one Seti kept for himself. He aged like stone, slowly and with cracks that showed up all at once. He worked until his hands shook too much to hold a reed pen, and even then he listened. He died in his sleep, they say, under a thin blanket, beside a mostly burned oil lamp. Some believe he dreamt one final dream of walking barefoot along the Nile at sunset, with ibis wings overhead and a voice behind him saying, "You may stop asking now." His scrolls were passed on, mostly unread. The temple itself outlasted his name. But now and then beneath the ruins, a faint inscription or a dream symbol scratched into plaster reminds us that even in an age of monumental gods, people still long to make sense of the things they saw when they closed their eyes. And sometimes the best way to understand a civilization is to ask, what did they whisper about ... while they slept? Chapter 3: Incense, Amulets, and the Art of Dreaming. If you were an ordinary person in ancient Egypt, your dreams weren't simply nighttime detours, they were destinations. And like any important journey, you prepared for them. Sleep was never a careless act. It was intentional, spiritual, and, in some households, a production. Before the lamps were snuffed, there were rituals, small, quiet gestures that whispered of cosmic hopes. In the same way, one might dress for travel or pack for a pilgrimage. Egyptians readied themselves for the dream world with care. First came the incense. A small bowl of myrrh or frankincense was set gently at the edge of the room. Sometimes kefi, a sweet mixture of wine-soaked raisins, honey, cinnamon, and herbs, was burned in a clay censer. The smoke rose in soft tendrils, curling toward the ceiling like shy prayers. The smell wasn't just pleasant, it was purposeful. Scents mattered. They were believed to guide the Ka, the soul self, through the boundary between waking and dreaming. Then came the amulets. Placed beneath pillows, tied to wrists, or worn on simple flax necklaces, amulets were more than accessories. The Eye of Horus was said to ward off nightmares. A tiny bronze Bez, the squat, lion-faced god of music, merriment, and sleep, often grinned from a bedside table, tasked with chasing away bad dreams and rodents alike. Mothers whispered his name while rocking children to sleep. Soldiers carried him in pouches, tucked beside their hearts. Some amulets were inscribed with phrases like, "May you sleep in peace," or "Let the night pass gently." Others bore longer charms, small spells etched in steady hand by temple scribes, wrapped in linen and kissed for luck. And then there were the prayers. Not loud, not formal, just murmured invocations, often to minor deities with names lost to history. Some spoke to Tabitchit, the scorpion goddess who protected sleepers from venomous creatures. Others whispered to Serket or Thoth, asking for wisdom through dreams. The most curious among these rites was a quiet practice called incubation. In certain temples, especially those dedicated to healing, a person could sleep in a designated chamber in hopes of receiving divine insight. These were no ordinary naps. You fasted beforehand, bathed in sacred water, anointed yourself in oil. You lay down on a stone slab or mat, surrounded by symbols and faint chants. The idea was simple. The gods would send a dream, a message, a cure, maybe even a vision of your future. Sometimes nothing came. Other times, you woke up certain the gods had whispered something, just out of reach. A donkey in a golden mask, a pyramid made of reeds, a voice that wasn't a voice at all. You'd tell the priests, and they would interpret, often vaguely, occasionally with dramatic concern. And then you'd walk out into the morning light, squinting, still uncertain if you were changed. One particular story survives from an ancient dream book. It tells of a man who dreamed that a cat spoke to him in his mother's voice. When he awoke, he rushed to the temple and demanded to know what it meant. The interpreter reportedly smiled and said, "It means you should listen more closely, even to things that hiss." As for the myth of the 7 sleepers, it drifted into Egyptian folklore much later, likely through cultural mingling with other traditions. The tale spoke of 7 individuals who fell asleep for hundreds of years in a cave, only to wake into a world that had forgotten them. To the Egyptians, it was both wondrous and melancholy, proof that sleep could bend time, or perhaps that the divine could keep secrets far longer than memory. So much of ancient Egyptian life was dedicated to eternity: monuments, tombs, mummification. But sleep, too, was a little taste of forever. Each night, the world slipped away, and you were left with shadows, whispers, and symbols. The real mystery wasn't whether dreams were real. The mystery was why they felt more true than waking life. Chapter 4. Sleeping in the Palace. Elsewhere in Thebes, where the floors are polished limestone instead of packed earth, sleep is also preparing to arrive. But here, in the palace, it is courted like royalty itself, invited in with perfumes, soft wine, and the steady hush of attendants trained never to slam a door. A noble woman reclines on a cedarwood frame, raised just high enough to avoid the scurrying things that plagued the reed cutter's floor. The legs of her bed curve into lion paws, a quiet symbol of protection and pride. Above her, the ceiling is painted with constellations, not precisely, but intentionally, 1,000 five-pointed stars laid in straight rows to mimic the night sky. If one cannot sleep under the heavens, it is said, one might as well sleep beneath a hand-painted replica of them. The linens are not scratchy like river reed mats. They are soft and smooth, freshly washed in natron and scented with blue lotus. Her head rests on a curved ivory headrest, shaped to keep her elaborate hair uncrushed. Comfort is not always softness. Sometimes it is preservation. At the foot of her bed, a servant folds and refolds a length of gauzy cloth. Another brings a tray of spiced wine, cool water, and dried figs, carefully arranged in a circle. Even snacks must obey the geometry of court life. Outside her door, sandals whisper down the hall, soft footfalls of guards, of scribes, of someone important enough to move quietly. At this hour, the temple priest may still be awake, reading stars or listening to dreams. Because here, in these upper rooms, dreams are currency. To dream of drowning may mean a political rival is rising. To dream of a serpent shedding its skin may be read as a warning to change alliances quickly. No one here is allowed a private nightmare. Even rest is interpreted, catalogued, and when convenient, used against you. Pharaohs themselves were not spared. It is said that one ruler delayed a grand festival after dreaming of a falcon flying backward. Another abruptly shifted policy after dreaming his sandals had been stolen. Whether these stories are true is beside the point. What matters is that they were believed, whispered down palace corridors as both prophecy and gossip. The wealthy may have had fans waving at their bedsides and servants to chase away the mosquitoes, but they also slept beneath the weight of symbolism. A cough in the night might be ignored by a washerwoman, but here it might be taken as a sign, a divine hint, a weakness noticed. Even in rest, the palace never truly sleeps. Guards pace the hall in slow rhythm. A scribe adjusts his scrolls by lamplight, preparing to record a dream if summoned. Someone in the kitchens waits for the bell that means the queen cannot sleep and would like warm milk. Still, sleep comes eventually. Even here, the fan slows. The harp music fades into the scent of myrrh. A priest's sandals are placed neatly by his bedside, facing east. A pharaoh exhales under linen sheets dyed the color of wheat at dusk. And for a moment, maybe two, the hush that fills the palace sounds almost like peace. The same kind of quiet that visits a humble hut by the river. The same flicker of candlelight. The same steady breath. For in the end, even golden beds creak, Even the mighty must close their eyes. And when they do, perhaps, just perhaps, they dream of simpler things. A meal shared in silence, the Nile at dusk, or the cool breeze through a reed-thatched roof. Conclusion: where dreams drift differently now. And now, here you are, not in Thebes, not in the year 1280 BCE, but in your own room, your own quiet, modern night. The sounds of ancient sandals and creaking mats have faded. The air no longer hums with mosquitoes or incense. The candle smoke is only imagined, and the Nile has returned to its rightful place, somewhere distant, somewhere slow. We wandered together through reeds and rituals, slept beside rats and under linen, listened to dreams, our own and others. We watched how sleep meant something different in every room, yet remained the same fragile gift, offered to both the humble and the highborn, though never quite equally. You've seen what it was to fall asleep as a reed cutter, lungs full of dust and prayers. You've met the priest who traced meaning in dreams and silence alike. You've wandered through talismans and temple lore, where sleep was half magic, half discipline. And you've stood at the edge of a royal bed, golden and stiff, where even rest came with a warning. But now, the only sound is the quiet hum of wherever you are. The weight of linen replaced by the comfort of your own blanket. The flicker of torchlight replaced by the dim glow of your screen, now slowly fading. And if you close your eyes now gently, you might find that the rhythm of breathing from 3,000 years ago still echoes faintly in your own chest. A reminder that sleep is the oldest ritual of all. So rest now, the Nile will rise again tomorrow. And the dreams, well, they'll know where to find you. Good night.